relief programs. And I'm just going to start this morning this afternoon, excuse me, we're used to doing morning webinars, and say good afternoon and welcome Doug Burke, our chairman of the board. Doug?
Thank you, Vicki. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I recognize a lot of names on this call, so I appreciate everyone tuning in. We have a really good call today with Harry Stone from the CBAC. And talking to Harry just before the call, he's going to have some really good insight and kind of bring together all the different loans and grants and advances that are available. And Harry's going to be a great resource for us. Also want to thank, of course, as I always do, Vicki, Nina, John, the whole team at the Chamber. We have another exciting lineup of webinars this week. And with that, Nina, I'll turn it over to you for instructions.
Thanks, Doug, and welcome everyone. Today we are all going to stay on mute except for our speaker. Of course, we always want to interact with you and take your questions, so we'll do that today through the chat feature on Zoom. If you're on a computer, you can go ahead and just move your mouse. You'll see your Zoom toolbar at the bottom of the screen. You can click chat and submit a question that way. And you can go ahead and just put your questions into the public chat so you can send them to everyone so that we can see them. No need to just send them to me or to anyone privately. We'll be using the public chat for your questions today. And if you're on a smartphone or a tablet, you may have to tap your screen in order to see that Zoom toolbar with the chat icon. Okay, so I think that's everything we have to go over, and I will give it back to Vicki Clark.
Thanks, Nina. So it is a pleasure really to welcome a member of the Chamber, Harry Stone, with CBAC, the Community Business Assistance Corporation. They've been a member of the Chamber for many years, and Harry is here to talk to us about one of the NJEDA programs, a partnership they have with the Community Development Financial Institutions, or known as the CDFI programs. Harry's also going to talk to us about the PPP program that received a new infusion of funding today. So Harry, they don't want to hear from me, they want to hear from you. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and we appreciate you being here today and just getting us caught up to speed on this new, these new funding sources. So thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Vicki. And Doug, thank you very much for having me today. I first wanted to go over the fact that today the second round of PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program through the Small Business Administration, has opened for additional funding. The SBA website kicked off at 9:30 this morning, or 10:30, I'm sorry, 10:30 this morning. However, there have been a number of issues with the SBA online program, the electronic submission program that the banks use and financial institutions to submit the applications. So right now they are working on that system to try to get it back up and running. I mention that because there are delays in processing. Also, a number of the banks use online portals specifically dedicated to the PPP program, and they have also had some issues this morning. This is similar to what happened the first time when the program was rolled out a couple of weeks ago, when the volume was just too great for the systems to handle. So the banks are also working through that process. What I recommend is, if you are in the process of applying for a PPP loan through your bank or another lender, that you should, if you haven't gotten through yet, try again, because some of the banks have been off and on with the availability on their websites of the application process. So if you've tried earlier today and were unable to get through, I suggest that you try again and keep trying throughout the day, because that's the best way to get in, because it'll open and then close at different times. So hopefully that process will get resolved, or the problems, I should say, will get resolved very quickly today. The way that it's being handled is that the banks have a pipeline of loan requests that they've received from the first round of funding that they were not able to get through because the program shut down. due to the lack of funding that was available due to the high demand. So many of the banks already have an existing application pipeline, and those applications will get processed. You don't have to resubmit if you did submit an application over the past couple of weeks. Some banks were taking new applications during the time period when the program was down. Others wanted to wait until it reopened on today or over the weekend. So if you have a confirmation that your bank has a complete application and or has submitted it to the SBA, then you do not have to reapply. But if you don't have a confirmation that it was actually accepted by the bank, then you should follow up with the bank to make sure that you are in a current pending status, as today all the banks are going through the process of submitting those applications for final approval directly to the SBA. With the EIDL program, the SBA EIDL program, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, that I believe is reopening today also. With that program, there is a up to a $10,000 forgivable advance that is part of that process. So when you fill out the application online, and it only takes a couple of minutes to do that, it's like a preliminary application for the EIDL, and they call it EIDL loan program through the SBA. It only takes a couple of minutes to complete that. And as part of that initial application, the SBA will issue a loan advance of $1,000 per employee up to a maximum of $10,000. And that money gets deposited directly into your account. When you fill out the application, you're going to give the SBA your routing number, your bank routing number, and the account number. And those funds will go directly into your account. And there's no other information that you have to do to get that loan advance. Then after they process those advances, they would then follow up for a complete application for a loan. If you do not proceed with getting a full application or submitting a full application, you still get that advance that is forgivable from the SBA. And for the SBA EIDL program, for that program, you apply directly to the SBA on their website, sba.gov. With the PPP program, those applications are taken by commercial banks that are participating in the program, as well as many online lenders, whether it be PayPal or any of the other online lenders. You can, off the SBA website, find out a list of who their participating PPP lenders are. What I recommend to everyone is first try to go with your existing bank if they are a PPP lender. And the advantage of that is they already know you, you know them, you're able to get a direct contact for follow-up purposes or if there are any issues with the loan, as opposed to going to a bank where they don't know you and you don't know them, or even with the online services. So if your existing bank, your existing business bank is participating in the program, I recommend you try them first. That is usually the most effective way to apply for that program. As far as the timing on receiving the funds, no one knows when that will be right now because of the high volume that's going in right now. I know that a number of the PPP loan advances that were made from the first round a couple of weeks ago have actually gone into business accounts, as well as the advances under the EIDL loan program. So the funds are getting out there to the small businesses actually being deposited in their accounts. But typically, originally they were saying 3 to 10 days for the two different programs, but I know it was taking longer than that to actually have the funds deposited. So expect, I would think, at least a similar type of time frame as to the first round with this one. So that's an overview of where the SBA loan programs stand as of today. And of course, it's changing hourly, and literally I've been on the phone with banks all day today, starting very early this morning as they're all trying to navigate the system shutdowns, as well as there were some new rules that came out over the weekend that the banks are figuring out and working with right now this afternoon. The other program I wanted to talk about today is a program that the Community Development Financial Institutions, or CDFIs, in the state of New Jersey have with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. About a week ago, the New Jersey EDA, New Jersey Economic Development Authority, came out with a program where they provided the 6 CDFIs in the state of New Jersey, of which my organization, CBAC, Cooperative Business Assistance Corporation, is one of the 6. They provided us with grant funding and loan guarantees to make loans to the small business community. The money that we received was a grant from the EDA to our organization, and those grant funds will be used to buy down interest rates for the small business customers' loans with us and the other CDFIs. So it's not that some of the grant money can be used if we increase capacity throughout the COVID recovery process, but the majority of the funds are being used to actually buy down interest rates for the loans that our customers would take out. Because I know there was a lot of confusion with the applications and inquiries we've been receiving. When the EDA put out their press release last week, it talked about grants being distributed to the CDFIs, and a number of businesses interpreted that as those grants being for them, the small business owner. But that's not the way it works. The grants were, again, to subsidize the interest so that low interest rates could be offered on the small business loans. The EDA also came out with another part of that program, which was the loan guarantee program, whereby the EDA is guaranteeing a portion of our loans that are made to small businesses for up to 50% of any losses that we may incur. So those are the 2 programs that are part of the New Jersey EDA CDFI program. The grant portion to the CDFIs that's used for interest rate buy downs, and the other portion for loan guarantees made that if any of our loans to the small business community go bad, they are going to cover 50% of that. Now, the issue is that with those 2 programs, there was not any additional loan capital made available to the CDFIs to use. There was no loan funds made available to lend to the small businesses. So what we have been doing, our organization and the others, we have been reaching out to our funders, whether they be federal agencies or financial institutions, foundations, any other type of organizations that provide funding to CDFIs. So we are reaching out to our funders to see if we can obtain either loans or grants or a combination of the 2 to provide additional funds for lending to the small businesses. So again, the program's only been out 1 week, and immediately when the program was announced, we started reaching out to try to get the funding to be able to implement the program. And it's just going to take a little bit of a while for that. Obviously, the demand for small business loans right now is amazing. I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I've never seen anything that even comes the slightest bit close to this, what we're going through. And again, evidenced by the New Jersey EDA, when they rolled out their program last week, within 34 minutes, they had applications for $224 million, and they only had $10 million available. So there was 114 million of unmet applications with the EDA just last week. So you can imagine the volume of requests that are out there statewide. And there's just not enough existing dollars right now to meet that need, which is why the most important thing for everyone to do, is to apply for the PPP and the EIDL, and then give us a little bit of time to get the funding and the programs up and running. The overall terms of the program that the CDFIs have with the NJEDA is that the loans can be up to a maximum of $75,000. However, most of the organizations are limiting those dollars to smaller loans to make sure that we get them spread out and available to as many small businesses as possible. The range right now that I'm hearing is probably going from 10,000 up to the 75,000, but most of the loans that will be offered by the 6 CDFIs will be in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. Although some of the organizations will be doing larger than the $20,000. The loans would have a maximum, the loans can only be used for working capital. They can't be used to buy equipment or buy real estate or anything like that. The purpose is just to provide the necessary funds to the businesses during these economic times that we're facing. So again, only working capital. The business must have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 virus. And that is not the case for all businesses. There are some manufacturers out there and some businesses involved in the healthcare profession that have not been negatively impacted. So they would not be eligible for the program. Under the EDA program, you have to be negatively impacted because of COVID-19. The interest rates on this program cannot exceed 3.75. That is the maximum amount that the CDFIs are allowed to charge to businesses for these loans. And these loans are for a maximum of up to 5 years. The loans, from what I'm hearing, are probably going to be anywhere from a minimum of 3 years to the maximum of 5 years. I'm not aware of anyone doing them for less than 3 years right now. That would be the minimum term. We also offer flexible repayment terms under that program, where in many cases there will be either no payment for the first 3 to 6 months, in some cases interest only payments for the first 3 to 6 months, or no payment. And then after the first 6 months to a year, there could be some increased payments with the balance being repaid over the life of the loan. And again, everyone is doing it differently throughout the state based upon our funding. But overall, the interest rates are going to be very favorable because it's a maximum of 3.75%. The loan term up to a maximum of 5 years is very reasonable for working capital loans. And these will be loans. They're not grants. They are repayable. The lenders will require personal guarantees of the business owners because these are funds that are being loaned to you that we've borrowed in the most case that we have to repay back our funders, even if we don't get paid back by the customer, by our customer, the small business. So keep that in mind, that there will be the requirement for financial statements, applications, and personal guarantees. But it's still worth it for the small business to do that because of the favorable rates and terms under the program. So Vicki, that's an overview of the programs that are out there. And I'd be happy to, did you want me to go over the PPP with regards to independent contractors and sole proprietors?
Yes, if you would just touch on those briefly. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'll do that very briefly. A lot of questions have come up the last couple of weeks as to whether or not a sole proprietor or a sole member LLC, in other words, a business that files a Schedule C, is eligible for the PPP loans, and they are. Even if you're self-employed and you do not have payroll, if you yourself are not on payroll or you don't have any employees, you are eligible for the PPP loan. And this is really something that didn't happen before with independent contractors and sole proprietors and gig workers being eligible for these type of programs. But under the CARES Act and under all of these COVID recovery programs that are being implemented right now, just as unemployment, it's all been expanded to include virtually every type of business. So if you are a sole proprietor, self-employed, you would typically file a Schedule C as part of your tax return. That's the business portion of the tax return. And the way the program works is it looks at your net income for this year, or last year, excuse me, 2019. That was a very recent change under the program. Your 2019 net income of the business. So if you have no employees, it's your net income from 2019, divided by 12, which would be your average monthly net income. You would then multiply that times 2.5 times. And that becomes the amount of the loan that you would be eligible for. If, as a sole proprietor, you also had wages paid to your employees, those wages would get added to the net income. The average monthly wages would get added to your net income, and that would become, times 2.5 times, would become the amount of loan that you could apply for. So that's a big change. Up until a week ago, the only requirement was that you had, it was based on your 2018 filed tax return. However, now, as of, I guess, just a couple of days ago, the program requires that you actually prepare an estimated Schedule C for 2019. Even if your tax returns aren't done under the PPP program, the lender needs to see your estimated Schedule C for 2019. So, I mean, that's a great way of getting operating funds for your business right now. And the business owner, they count as part of the payroll for the business. And what the loan does is it covers 8 weeks worth of payroll for the business, in addition to another 25% of the loan. As part of 75% minimum needs to go for payroll. The other 25% of the loan can go for business expenses such as utilities, rent, or interest payments on mortgage debt. Only the interest portion of the payments, not the principal, but utilities and rent gets included in what can be used for the PPP. The requirement of that is that as of June 30th, that you have retained or rehired folks that were out of work, or you kept them working during the next 8-week period. And the 8 weeks of payroll that it covers starts from the time you receive the funds from the lender through the PPP program. And during that 8 weeks, they want to see that you've restored your employee base back to where it was in February of this year. As far as any of for seasonal businesses, especially down the shore, there are alternative measurement periods that can be used, such as March through June of last year. So instead of just the average wages that were paid for the entire year, for seasonal businesses, there's an alternate period of March through June of last year that can be used. So and as far as being an independent contractor, if you're receiving 1099 statements, which you would get from whoever you're working for as an independent contractor, that income that you report on your tax return is what you would be eligible for as your net income or wages for the application for the PPP. With regards to partnerships, it's actually the partnership that applies for the loan on behalf of the partners. So a lot of these conditions and requirements have just changed within the past week. And I apologize, but I did not get a chance to read through the bill that was just finalized. I guess it was last Thursday or Friday. But there could be some other changes in there that I'm not aware of. But as I hear them, I'll try to keep everyone updated.
Okay. You want to jump into some questions now?
Sure, whatever you have.
All right. So to apply for the loan that you were talking about when we opened up for the CDFI loans, you go to the NJEDA website?
No. You contact the CDFIs directly.
Okay, so contact you.
That's correct. Or the other CDFIs in the state.
Okay, and so for a list of those,
That's on the New Jersey website, the
okay.
NJEDA website, and the contact information and the links.
Okay, and so we will provide that from the chamber as well to everyone listening. We will post that for you. Okay, so we do have some questions that people are posting in the chat. So if you think about those questions, please continue to post them. I'm just going to start with the first one that we have here. And that is, if an idle application number has been received weeks ago in recognition of an application form being completed, and that was on the short form, but they have not heard anything, is there anything else that they need to do?
No, nothing that they need to do. And also, from everything I've been told, there is no way that anyone can be called to confirm the status of it. That because of the volume they're handling, they're not able to respond to inquiries regarding the status. I can say, though, that the time to receive the funds has been quite a while, you know, candidly. And I know a lot of people that applied right in the beginning have not received their money yet. And originally, I know when the program opened, they said 3 days to receive the money, but that has not been the case.
If I did not get an application number when they applied weeks ago, what should they do?
Are you referring to the EIDL program?
It doesn't say, so.
When you say you didn't get a number, when you complete the EIDL application online, on the last page of the application, a confirmation number was given out for a complete application. Unfortunately, I am not aware of any follow-up email or anything like that confirming it. So it's possible that when you hit submit, you didn't notice that there was a confirmation number because there was no other type of follow-up on that saying that they had received a submitted application. If it's hard to say, you could try to apply again if you think that your application may not have been submitted properly, or you did not get it into the system, or it was accepted. I really don't see any downside to applying again now for that. I think that would be the safest thing to do. The worst thing that would happen is it would be rejected.
Okay.
For a duplicate application.
Okay. The next question. I just contacted our local bank and they said they have not been able to put one loan through because the site keeps crashing.
Correct.
Are larger banks getting their loans processed?
Definitely not. Their sites are crashing as well.
Okay. Will my previous NJEDA loan app that was received but not considered due to oversubscribing still be considered?
The EDA's position on that was that they will look at it if funds become available, additional funds become available. However, candidly, they said don't expect it to happen because they're not aware of the ability to come up with that large amount of additional funding for it.
Is there any talk about expanding the 25% PPP for other qualified expense percentage to a larger amount?
Not that I've heard of at all. And it's been strictly limited to the 25% or 75%, I should say, minimum for the wages. And my thinking is that since, from what I understand, that the pipeline is already filled for the PPP for this week's additional funding, that if there's going to be another additional round, which there is talk of already, even though this one hasn't even kicked off yet, I can't imagine them changing the program that much at this point because of the demand that they have. And it's taken a while to get them or get the program to where it is. And I don't think that by changing something like that would be beneficial because of the delays that could happen with the program going forward. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, it's always possible that a program can change with any amendments to the CARES Act, but I haven't heard any talk about changing that. I can say that.
I usually open in May and have 4 seasonal employees until June. does it mean I have to employ 4 employees in order to get PPP, even if my business is closed due to the shutdown?
That's a fantastic question, and one that I am not aware of an answer to. I've been speaking to a number of the banks about this, and the issue is when the CARES Act, which created the PPP program, came out, there really wasn't anything that addressed business closures due to the state requirements. So that the eight-week period, in a way, was in a vacuum because it did not account for businesses that could not be open. So how do they have that employment back? Although the other purpose about the PPP program is to actually have the business, in a way, help out with the unemployment system. That's really what it is. Because if everyone didn't have the opportunity of being paid by their employer through the PPP program, then the unemployment numbers and volume would skyrocket even much more than it already has. And the overload on the system would just be too much. So part of this isn't just to get the employees back to work, it's also to provide them with income through you as the employer while the business is closed or out of work. But as far as the time frame is concerned, with the 8 weeks usage and the testing period about being June 30th, I'm thinking that may have to be addressed and modified because of the state ordered shutdowns of businesses.
With the idle, my accountant told me to put 0 employees. I'm a sole LLC. Was that correct? Or should I have answered 1 employee, who would be me?
I would reapply and put down 1 employee, because initially, and again, I don't want to contradict any other accountant, CPA, or anyone out there. However, when the program was first released, it was stated that the amount of the loan advance would be $10,000. And then after the program was out about a week, they modified it to where it was $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000. So that was a change. In the beginning, it didn't matter because it was a blanket $10,000 per company. But now that they've changed it to $1,000 per employee, you would have to resubmit putting in at least 1 employee to be eligible for anything.
Okay. And the next question was kind of a follow-up on that. How did the idle know how many employees you have? The question person says, I don't remember being asked that on the application.
I believe it was.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Okay. I've heard nothing about the PPP and disaster relief and applied in April. I have an application number, but I've not heard anything. Should I reapply?
No. If you have an application number, there is no need to reapply.
Okay.
Especially if you have the application number, that's what you need.
Okay. If we put in our SBA loan in mid-March and have not heard a response, when we call the SBA, they say that it is in the process. However, we did receive a $5,000 direct deposit into our account from the SBA.
Okay.
Does that mean that the loan was approved? How would you suggest I find out what the amount and terms are?
They haven't gotten to that yet. The SBA right now on the idle loan program that we're referring to, because that's the one that had the advance, they are only dealing with the initial advances right now. The SBA will be following up on the complete application from what has already been submitted online that got you that advance. And again, the volume is just so great that they're just trying to work through everything, and their priority was getting out the advances first prior to actually doing the loans.
Okay. Well, Harry, thank you. We don't have any, oh no, we have one more question that came in. Is there any news on funding for the New Jersey assistance grant for those of us that are on the waiting list?
No, It's, again, there is no additional funding that the New Jersey EDA has available at this time. I know they are working on getting additional funding. I was just speaking with actually their director of small business lending right before I got on this call, and they are working on it as of today. But as of right now, there's no additional funding for those programs.
Okay. All right. So we may have a few more questions come in. So Harry, if you would just stand by for a moment. People are just thinking about all the information that you've been sharing. I'm sure it might prompt some ideas for other questions. So in the meantime, I'd like to introduce everyone to Joe Molyneux. Joe, I know, is a familiar face to a lot of people, but Joe has recently joined Cape May County government as a consultant to help everybody through a lot of these application process. So Joe, if you would just take a moment to introduce yourself and to tell everybody what kind of a resource you're going to be, while folks are maybe thinking also about some other questions they might have for Harry.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vicki. And first of all, Harry did an excellent job. Harry and I go way back when I was working with SBDC for over 15 years. Harry and the team at CBAC was one of the first resources that I was not only introduced to, but that we utilized to help a lot of people with their lending. So as far as the programs, I would strongly recommend contacting Harry and working through as many different options as you have. And that's what people are trying to tell you. You know, I want to thank Vicki too for the opportunity just to speak briefly about what the county has asked me to do. I'm excited about the opportunity, and it's an opportunity for me to utilize the skills that I was lucky enough to gain over 15 years of working with the Small Business Development Center out of Stockton College and then Stockton University. And the role is pretty simple. The county asked me to come in, consult with the business community on not only the recovery efforts, the strategies to get there, the reopening strategies when we ultimately get there, and a lot of the work that complements the lending that's going on out there. You know, the development of the plans that need to happen. If you have questions that you need answers to, while every other resource is out there, I think it's nice and a wonderful thing that the county asked me to get in place as a consultant, so that when you call the county number to get information, you're getting a live voice that has some experience going through things not of this magnitude. Like Harry said, this is totally uncharted territory for lending and everybody else. But as far as the practical strategies and experiences that I can share, and I've already worked with a number of businesses that called. We had businesses, I've been in the role for about 2 weeks as consultant, and we've had, you know, well over a few dozen people call and ask for information. We're also engaged in building the website and the resources and things like that for the county. So let me give you a phone number because I want Harry to get back to what he's doing. You can call direct to the county, which rings to me through the consultancy. It's 609-465-1085. And I could give you my email, but by the time you wrote down, it's just easier to say, go to the county website and go to the planning department. And just as you scroll down, you'll see me listed as consultant right under Leslie's information. Like I said, everybody has a unique situation. And I think that's the way we have to look at this. As you notice from even the questions that are going on in different loan programs, one size doesn't fit all. So I think having another voice and another mind working with you as business owners, and you're busy enough just trying to do what you need to do, I'm sure, to survive and move your businesses forward. And I think what we have to do is just have, you know, good, practical, realistic strategies and expectations to move through the process together. I mean, I believe that the county will rebound and do everything it needs to do, but it's just going to take time. But with that time, we can use our time wisely to plan for what can happen and also be ready and positioned for many different options that may occur as far as the opening schedules and things like that may occur. So Vicki, I want to thank you for allowing me to just be introduced to this group. And I know the numbers are going to keep growing exponentially of need and the people that we'll be helping. We're already off to on the right track with that. But again, I just want to echo a lot of the stuff that Harry said. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a little bit of confusion, and the technology, the demands on the technology system, you know, they have to work those out. But again, if you ask the right questions to the right people, hopefully you'll get the right answers. And that's one of the people that I want to be for you, a resource to help you get your questions answered. And thanks again, Vicki, for the opportunity, and thank you for the Chamber for these amazing things, these seminars.
Sure. Thanks, Joe. So Harry, we do have a few more questions. So I'm going to share those with you. Let's see, where do we leave off here? Next question would be, is there any news on funding? Oh, I think I did ask that question. I'm sorry. Update on the entrepreneurial grant program. Is there any update on that entrepreneurial grant program?
Vicki, I'm prompting Harry to unmute himself there. So it looks like he just muted himself while Joe was on.
Okay.
So Harry, if you could just, should be a prompt coming up. There you go.
There you go. Yes, on the entrepreneurial program, my understanding is that that is still up as of last Thursday, but I don't have the details on that one. That one you would contact the New Jersey EDA directly for.
Okay.
That is not being handled through the CDFIs.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next question is, I tried to apply for the SBA disaster assistance loan today, but Cape May County is not listed in the disaster area. So I know what that problem is. You have to go to the actual EIDL application. So that's what that area, that's what that situation was.
Right.
Yeah. So they're on the website, there's a special application for the EIDL loan. It's not the disaster loan. Right, Harry?
That is correct. That is correct. The only two, or actually the only loan right now on the SBA website would be the Paycheck Protection Program loan, the PPP.
Okay. And they asked, would a recording be available? Yes.
I'm sorry, forgive me, Vicki, I misspoke. The EIDL is the one directly through the SBA, sorry.
Right.
Not the PPP.
Right. Yes. And we are recording this and it will be posted. I think Joe's going to put his email actually in the chat for everyone. And we have his phone number in the chat. And Harry, do you want to give any closing remarks?
Sure. I just want to let you know that at CBAC, we have a technical assistance business development officer that handles Cape May County directly, Nancy Wiesenthal. She may be known to many of you. I know she is with some of the people here today. And she specifically covers both Cape May and Atlantic counties for CBAC, as well as the rest of our staff. But she's a local person that knows the community really well, has a lot of good networking and contacts available for the small businesses. And she's also working, hand in hand with us on the program. So I just want to give a shout out to Nancy that she'll be supporting us in our efforts at CBAC. The one thing I do want to say is with regards to all of the new funding you're looking at, hopefully at applying for, especially again, the grants and the forgivable loans as your very first step. I also suggest that anyone that has business debt out there or personal debt out there if you're struggling with cash flow, if your business is closed, whatever the case may be, to contact your lender and ask the lender what they can do for you with regards to a payment moratorium, a deferment of payments, or to work along with you. It is much better for the lender to hear directly from you that due to your financial circumstances right now, you're unable to make the payments, than to just simply not make them and go into default. So I know many lenders, ourselves included, are working with our customers on payment deferrals. So that is the next best thing you can do, if not the first thing, is contact your existing lenders if you're unable to make the payments at this time.
Well, thank you, Harry. This has been great information and so helpful to all of us. I know that we're all struggling through this time. We appreciate your valuable time in sharing this information. And we will certainly reach out to you again as more questions come up, and I know our people on the webinar today will be reaching out, I'm sure, looking for additional assistance. I just want to remind everybody that, as was said in the beginning, we have quite a few other programs coming up later this week. We do have a webinar at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning with Arista, talking about cybersecurity, which is, of course, so much more important now than it ever was before, with all of us turning more and more to the internet for programs like this, connecting with each other, and depending on the web for all of our information in a way that we never did before. So, and a whole host of programs, which I hope that you'll be tuning into. And I do want to remind everybody that, like most all of our programs, everything is recorded and archived, and you will find those either on our website or also on our YouTube channel. So check us out there. So if we've missed anything, please let us know, and we'll be happy to follow up with you about that. Read our What a Day, which is a daily recap of everything that we've been able to find out to pass along to you. So with that, I wish everybody a great afternoon. Harry, one more thing?
One more thing. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. If I've offended anyone with the Eagles hat today, I'm not going to apologize. It is South Jersey. And if there are any Giant fans out there, well, what can I say? That's all.
I think more people appreciated it than anything else.
Glad to hear that.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.